The phone rang at 6:12 a.m. That detail still matters to me because nothing good ever happens at 6:12 in the morning. The sky outside my apartment window was the color of wet cement, and the city hadn't fully woken up yet. I was standing in my kitchen, barefoot on cold tile, staring at the coffee machine like it had personally betrayed me. I almost didn't answer. The caller ID said Lena. My sister never called unless she wanted something or wanted to hurt someone, usually both. I let it ring 3 times. 4. On the 5th, I picked up. What? I said. No hello. No warmth. She didn't bother with pleasantries either. Mom died last night, Lena said flatly. The funeral is Friday. The words landed in the air between us, heavy and wrong. I waited for the punchline that never came. She left everything to me, Lena continued, her voice tightening just enough to enjoy it. The house, the accounts, everything. You get nothing. Silence followed, long, deliberate. I could hear her breathing, waiting for the reaction she wanted. Shock, grief, begging, anger, something she could feed on. Instead, I leaned against the counter and looked down at my shaking hand. Because my mother was standing right next to me, alive, very much alive. She stood near the small dining table, still wearing her old blue cardigan, one hand resting on the back of a chair. Her hair was tied the same way it always was when she couldn't sleep. She looked tired, but not sick, not dying, not dead. She met my eyes and shook her head slowly. No, she mouthed. My chest tightened so hard it felt like my ribs might crack. On the phone, Lena cleared her throat. Well, she said, aren't you going to say anything? I swallowed. I'm sorry to hear that, I said calmly. Mom's eyes widened. Yeah, Lena replied, satisfied. I figured you would be. She hung up. The line went dead, but my ears kept ringing. For a moment, neither Mom nor I spoke. The only sound in the apartment was the hum of the refrigerator and my heartbeat pounding in my throat. Then Mom reached for the chair and sat down like her legs had finally given up. She thinks I'm dead, Mom said quietly. I nodded. She didn't sound sad about it. Mom let out a bitter laugh. She never does. I poured 2 cups of coffee with hands that still wouldn't stop shaking and set one in front of her. She wrapped her fingers around it like she needed the warmth to stay grounded in reality. This wasn't supposed to happen yet, she said. I frowned. Yet? Mom looked up at me, and in that moment, I saw something I hadn't seen in her eyes since. We were kids, fear mixed with regret. I was going to tell you today, she said, everything. Growing up, Lena and I learned early that love in our house came with conditions. Lena figured out how to meet them. I didn't. She was louder, sharper, better at performing. She knew how to cry on cue, how to tell adults exactly what they wanted to hear. Teachers loved her. Neighbors praised her. Even Mom, who tried so hard to be fair always, seemed exhausted after dealing with Lena, like she'd just survived a storm. By the time we were teenagers, Lena had mastered the art of rewriting reality. If something went wrong, it was my fault. If she broke something, I must have touched it last. If she lied, it was because I forced her to, and somehow people believed her. The night I moved out at 19, Lena stood in the doorway and smiled while Mom cried behind her. You'll be back, Lena whispered so only I could hear. You always come back when you need something. She was wrong. I built a quiet life instead. A small apartment, a steady job, distance. Mom and I stayed close though, maybe closer than Lena ever realized, which made that phone call impossible. You're sure? I asked now, pacing the kitchen. She said last night. She sounded confident. That's because she planned it, Mom said. I stopped pacing. Planned what? Mom took a deep breath. My death. The words shouldn't have made sense. They didn't. But something cold slid into place in my stomach. She's been asking questions lately, Mom continued. About the will. About the house. About my accounts. At first I thought she was just being herself. Lena doesn't ask questions without a reason, I said. Mom nodded. Exactly. She reached into her cardigan pocket and pulled out a folded envelope. My name was written on the front in her careful handwriting. I rewrote my will 6 months ago, she said. And I didn't tell her. My pulse quickened. What did it say? That everything goes into a trust, Mom replied. Managed by you? I stared at her. Me? She already got enough, Mom said quietly. I paid for her school, her debts, her mistakes. I wanted to make sure she couldn't take everything. including you. My throat tightened. She must have found out, I said slowly. Or thought she did. Mom nodded again. Last week she told me I should get my affairs in order. Yesterday, she offered to handle my finances for me, and you said no. Yes, that explained the call. Lena hadn't just declared Mom dead. She had erased her. I ran a hand through my hair. If she's telling people you died, she's already started, Mom interrupted. Look. She slid her phone across the table. There it was. A group message from Lena, time-stamped at 5:03 a.m. Mom passed peacefully in her sleep. I'll handle arrangements. Please respect our privacy. Replies flooded beneath it. Condolences, shock, heart emojis. My stomach turned. She's holding a funeral, I said. Mom's voice dropped to a whisper. And she thinks she's inheriting everything. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling. Most people would panic. Most people would call the police, or lawyers, or confront her immediately. But Lena didn't know one thing. She thought I was alone. She thought Mom was gone. And she thought I had nothing. I looked at Mom and saw something change in her expression. Not fear anymore, but resolve. What do you want to do? I asked. Mom straightened in her chair. I want to see how far she's willing to go. A slow smile spread across my face before I could stop it. Then we don't correct her, I said. Not yet. Mom raised an eyebrow. You're sure? She announced your death without a body, I replied. Let her dig the hole. Outside, the city finally woke up. Cars passed. Life went on. Somewhere across town, my sister was planning a funeral for a woman who was very much alive, and she had no idea that by Friday, the truth wouldn't just come out. It would destroy everything she thought she'd won. By Tuesday morning, Lena had gone from grieving daughter to event manager. That's what amazed me most. Not the lie itself, but the speed. Death, for her, was just another opportunity with a deadline. Mom and I sat at my small kitchen table, laptops open, watching the performance unfold in real time. Lena posted a black and white photo of Mom on social media, one I recognized immediately. It had been taken years ago at a family barbecue. Mom had hated that picture because the sun made her squint. She was my best friend, Lena wrote beneath it. I don't know how I'll go on without her. The comments poured in. She loved you so much. You were always there for her. Let me know if you need anything. Mom closed her eyes. She was never best friends with me, she said softly. She barely visited. That's why this works, I replied. People don't check facts when grief is involved. Lena knew that. She always had. By noon, she'd announced the funeral location, a mid-sized church across town, and a viewing scheduled for Friday morning. Closed casket, of course. She blamed Mom's wishes and the condition she was in at the end. Condition she didn't have, and that never came. She's building a paper trail, I said. Posts, messages, witnesses. Mom nodded. She wants it to feel real enough that no one questions it later. And the will? Mom hesitated. She hasn't mentioned it publicly yet, but she told my lawyer she'd be in touch. That made my jaw tighten. Your lawyer? I asked. She called him yesterday, Mom said. He thought it was strange, but he hasn't released anything. He said legally, nothing can move without a death certificate, which she doesn't have. Yet, Mom replied, we both knew Lena wasn't stupid. If she couldn't produce documents, she'd create pressure. Social pressure, emotional pressure, enough to make people uncomfortable saying no. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I looked at Mom. Probably her. Answer, Mom said, but don't say anything you'll regret. I put it on speaker. Hey, Lena said, her voice suddenly soft. Sweet, it's me. I know, I replied. A pause. You sound okay, I'm managing. She sighed dramatically. I know we haven't been close, but I thought maybe we could put things aside. For Mom, I almost laughed. For Mom, I repeated. Yes, she said quickly. I wanted to let you know the arrangements. I already handled everything. You don't need to worry about costs or planning. How generous, I said. Another pause, this one sharper. You don't have to be like that, Lena snapped. I lost my mother. I glanced at Mom. She raised an eyebrow. I heard, I said. Friday, right? Yes, 10 a.m. viewing, service at 11. She hesitated. You'll come, won't you? There it was. The trap. I'll be there, I said. Her relief was immediate and suspicious. Good, she said. I thought you might disappear. You always do. I wouldn't miss it, I replied. She lowered her voice. About the will? Lena, I interrupted. Let's talk about that after the funeral. Silence. Then, cautiously, okay. She hung up. Mom exhaled slowly. She wants you there so you can't deny it later. Exactly, I said. She wants witnesses. Proof that even I accepted your death. Mom stared at her coffee. And you're really going? Yes. She looked up, alarmed. What if she tries to stop you? Or worse, she can't stop me, I said. And she won't expect what's coming. That night, Mom stayed with a friend across town, someone Lena didn't know. We agreed it was safer if Mom vanished completely until Friday. No texts, no calls, no movements that could be traced. For the world, she was already dead. On Wednesday, Lena escalated. She organized a fundraiser in Mom's honor. She posted childhood photos. She told stories that twisted truth just enough to make her the hero. She cried on camera, wiping tears that never quite fell. By Thursday morning, I received another call, this time from an aunt I barely spoke to. I'm so sorry, she said. Lena is holding up so well. You must be devastated. I am, I replied honestly. Just not for the reason she thought. That afternoon, I met with Mom's lawyer alone. She's pushing hard, he said, rubbing his temples. She wants me to release documents. She's claiming urgency, emotional distress. And you didn't? No, he said firmly. But I need to ask. Your mother is alive, isn't she? Yes. He leaned back, relief washing over his face. Good, then she's committing fraud. Not yet, I said. But she's close. He studied me. You're planning something. I'm letting her finish, I replied. Friday arrived cold and gray. The church parking lot was packed. I arrived 10 minutes early, dressed in black, face carefully neutral. People I barely recognized hugged me, whispered condolences, told me how strong Lena was being. She's inside, one of them said. She's a mess. I nodded and walked in. Lena stood at the front, dressed in elegant black, hair pulled back just enough to look effortless. She clutched tissues, surrounded by friends who kept patting her arm. When she saw me, her face tightened, just for a second, before she smiled. You came, she said, hugging me quickly for show. Of course, I replied. She pulled back and searched my face. You holding up? I am, I said. Are you? She sniffed. Trying. The casket sat at the front of the room, closed, draped in flowers. Lena had chosen white lilies, Mom's least favorite. I took a seat near the front. The service began. Lena spoke first. She talked about sacrifice, about how Mom leaned on her, about promises she claimed they'd made late at night, about how she'd been trusted with everything. People nodded. Some cried. I watched Lena carefully. She was glowing. That was when I noticed something else. A man in a dark suit near the back of the room, not mourning, watching. Our eyes met. He gave me the smallest nod. My heart began to race. Because I knew that look. That was the look of someone waiting for a signal. I glanced at my phone. One unread message. Mom, ready when you are. I stood up. Lena froze mid-sentence. Every head turned. Is something wrong? She asked, voice tight. I took a deep breath. No, I said. I just think it's time. Time for the lie to end. Time for the truth to walk in. Time for my sister to realize she'd buried herself instead. When I stood up, the room seemed to inhale all at once. Lena stopped speaking mid-sentence, her hand still clutching the podium. Her eyes locked onto me, sharp and confused, like an animal that had just heard a noise it didn't recognize. What are you doing? She whispered, forcing a smile for the crowd. I didn't answer her. Instead, I turned slightly toward the back of the church and nodded once. That was all it took. The doors opened, not dramatically, not all at once, just enough. And then she walked in. For half a second, nothing happened because no one's brain could process what their eyes were seeing. Then the gasps began. Someone dropped a program. Someone else screamed. My mother stepped fully into the room, alive, breathing, wearing a dark coat and a calm expression that cut through the chaos like glass. The man in the dark suit, now clearly a court officer, stood beside her. Lena's face drained of color so fast it looked unreal. She tried to speak. Mom? Mom didn't look at her. She walked down the aisle slowly, every step deliberate, the murmur of shock rising around her like a wave. This isn't funny, Lena said, her voice breaking. Who is this? What is this? Mom stopped beside the closed casket. She rested her hand on it. This, Mom said clearly, her voice steady, is a lie. The church erupted. Name, someone else kept saying, oh my God, Lena backed away from the podium, shaking her head. No, she said. This is some kind of sick joke. She's confused. She's been unwell. Mom turned to her then, and the silence that followed was worse than shouting. I was never unwell, Mom said. I was inconvenient. Lena's lips trembled. You told me you were tired. You told me. I told you no, Mom interrupted. And you decided I was dead. The officer stepped forward. Ma'am, he said to Lena, please remain where you are. What? Lena snapped. Why? Because, the officer replied calmly, you announced a death that never occurred, attempted to access assets under false pretenses, and misrepresented yourself to legal counsel. Lena's head whipped toward me. You did this, she hissed. I met her stare. You did it yourself. Her breath came fast now. You're trying to humiliate me. In front of everyone. Mom laughed softly. You held my funeral. Lena turned to the crowd, desperation seeping into her voice. She's lying. She disappeared. She didn't answer calls. I was with witnesses, Mom said. And cameras. And lawyers. The officer nodded. We have documentation. Lena's knees buckled slightly. She grabbed the podium for support. I was protecting her, Lena said weakly. She asked me to handle things. That's funny, Mom replied. Because I asked you for one thing. Lena looked up at her. Respect my boundaries, Mom said. And you couldn't. The officer gestured toward the side aisle. Ma'am, we need to speak with you. Lena's eyes darted around the room, searching for allies. She found none. Hands avoided her. Eyes slid away. The same people who had praised her strength now watched her like she was something dangerous. This isn't over, Lena said, her voice breaking into something shrill. You think this makes you look good? Mom stepped closer. This makes the truth visible, she said. That's all. The officer escorted Lena out. She didn't fight. She didn't cry. She just stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, as her perfect performance collapsed behind her. The service was dismissed shortly after. People left in stunned silence, whispering theories, checking phones, replaying the moment over and over. By the time the church emptied, only Mom, the officer, the lawyer, and I remained. Mom exhaled deeply and sank into a chair. I need a moment, she said. I knelt beside her. You did great. She gave a tired smile. I raised a problem. No, I said. You survived one. The fallout came fast. By afternoon, Lena's posts were gone. The fundraiser disappeared. Messages flooded in. Apologies, confusion, questions no one expected answers to. Mom's lawyer filed immediate reports. False death declaration. Attempted fraud. Intent to deceive. Lena was released that night but barred from contacting Mom directly. She called me instead. I didn't answer. She texted. You think you won. You always needed her to save you. I stared at the screen, then deleted the message. That evening, Mom and I sat on my couch, exhaustion finally catching up with us. I should have seen it sooner, she said quietly. I kept excusing her. You loved her, I replied. That's not a crime. She looked at me. But ignoring patterns is dangerous, I nodded. What happens now? I asked. Mom folded her hands. Now we finish what she started. The will was read the following week. Lena wasn't there. Her lawyer was. The trust was confirmed. Control passed to me. Lena received a fixed, limited amount, released only if she complied with legal, boundaries and counseling requirements. She didn't scream. She smiled. That scared me more than anger ever could. As we left the office, Mom squeezed my hand. She's not done, she said. I know, I replied. That night, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. This time I answered. You think you embarrassed me? Lena said softly. But funerals aren't the end. What are they then? I asked. She chuckled. They're just practice. The line went dead. I stared at the dark screen, heart pounding, because I knew one thing for certain now. My sister wasn't after money anymore. She was after control, and she had already decided who her next target was. Lena didn't disappear after the funeral disaster. That would have been too simple. Instead, she went quiet. No posts, no calls, no dramatic statements, just silence, thick and intentional. The kind of silence that doesn't mean surrender, but recalculation. Mom noticed it first. She's planning, Mom said one evening as we sat in her living room. The house Lena had once claimed as hers online, now very clearly occupied. When Lena goes quiet, it's because she's rewriting the story. I believed her. Lena had always treated truth like clay, something soft enough to reshape if you pressed hard enough from the right angle. 2 weeks after the will reading, the first rumor surfaced. A distant cousin messaged me late at night. Is it true your mom manipulated the will? That she's not well mentally? I stared at the screen, my stomach tightening. By morning, 3 more messages arrived. Different people. Same story. Mom sighed when I told her. There it is. Lena couldn't steal the money outright, so she was trying to poison the source. She's going to challenge the will, I said. Yes, Mom replied calmly, and she's going to make it look like concern. That was Lena's specialty, weaponized worry. The legal notice arrived a few days later. Petition to contest the trust on grounds of undue influence and mental instability. Mom read it carefully, then folded it with steady hands. She's claiming you manipulated me, she said, meeting my eyes. That I was coerced. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. She announced your death, and now she's worried about your mental health? Mom smiled faintly. Consistency was never her strength. Still, the challenge meant months of hearings, evaluations, depositions, more opportunities for Lena to perform. She wants me on the stand, Mom said. She wants me to doubt myself out loud. And you won't, I replied. Mom reached for my hand. No, but I want to do something else first. Lena didn't expect the invitation. That much was clear from her reply. Dinner? She texted. Seriously? Yes, Mom wrote. Neutral place, public, one conversation. There was a long pause. Then, fine. The restaurant was quiet, upscale, carefully chosen, cameras, witnesses, neutral ground. Lena arrived 10 minutes late, dressed impeccably, her expression composed into something that almost resembled concern. Mom, she said, leaning in for a hug. Mom didn't stand. Sit, she said. Lena blinked, then smiled tightly and took the chair across from us. I'm glad you're okay, Lena said. Truly, I was so worried. Mom didn't respond. I watched Lena closely. She avoided looking at me. You embarrassed me, Lena continued softly. In front of everyone. Did you know I couldn't sleep for days? Mom folded her napkin. You held my funeral. Lena sighed like a tired caregiver. I made a mistake. I thought you were gone. You weren't answering. I panicked. You lied, Mom said. Lena's eyes flicked toward me. You disappeared on purpose, she said accusingly. You let me believe. No, Mom interrupted. You wanted me gone. The words hung between them. Lena leaned back. Is that what he told you? She nodded toward me. Because he's always needed to be the victim. That was it. Mom leaned forward, eyes sharp. I invited you here to give you one chance, she said. Drop the challenge. Walk away with what you were given. Lena laughed quietly. And let him control everything? No. Mom's voice hardened. You already lost. Lena smiled. Then why are you scared? Mom reached into her bag and placed a small recorder on the table. Lena froze. What's that? She asked. Mom pressed a button. Lena's own voice filled the space between us. If Mom doesn't sign it, she won't matter anyway. Dead people don't argue. Color drained from Lena's face. She stammered. That's taken out of context. There's more, Mom said calmly. Weeks worth, messages, voicemails, threats. I added quietly, and timestamps. Lena's hand shook as she reached for her water glass. You recorded me, she whispered. I protected myself, Mom replied. Something you never learned to do. For the first time, Lena looked small. Drop the case, Mom said, or this goes into evidence. Silence. Then Lena's jaw tightened. You'll regret this, she said softly. Mom met her stare. No, you will. Lena stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. This family is a joke, she spat. Enjoy your control. She walked out without looking back. Mom exhaled slowly. That was the last olive branch, she said. The court case didn't last long. Once the recordings were submitted, Lena's narrative collapsed. Her lawyer advised settlement, withdrawal, damage control. She signed the agreement 3 days later. No contact, no challenges, no public statements. The trust stood. The house stayed with Mom, and Lena walked away with less than she'd tried to steal, and a reputation she couldn't outrun. Months passed. Life settled into something quieter. One evening, Mom and I sat on the porch, watching the sun sink low. I used to think love meant enduring anything, Mom said, even harm. I nodded. A lot of people think that. She looked at me. Thank you for not letting me disappear. I smiled. You were never invisible. My phone buzzed. One final message. Unknown number. You may have won the money, it read. But I'll always be the story people remember. I showed it to Mom. She chuckled softly. She still doesn't understand. Understand what? I asked. That the loudest story isn't always the true one. I deleted the message and set the phone down. Somewhere out there, my sister was still rewriting history in her head. But the truth no longer needed defending, because the woman she tried to bury was very much alive and stronger than Lena had ever been.